Hey guys, I am Sharon Tillman here. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. I am so excited to be on this journey with you and to have you here with me. If you listened to or watched my introductory video, then you know I am all about knowing who you are, knowing who you've been called to be, walking fully, genuinely, and authentically in that, boldly and unapologetic. So, welcome to the Who Are You with I Am Sharon Tillman. I know that a lot of times when we're thinking about who we are, we're thinking about all of the different ways that we can really identify. So when I say, who are you? I want you to really ponder that thing, right? I want you to really stop and think about it. It's so easy for you to be like, I am Sharon Tillman because that is my name. But who are you for real? Like down to your core, who are you? Because it's easy to be associated with your name. It's easy to be associated with your career. It's easy to be associated with so many different things. Listen, your job, your title. Are you a wife? Are you a mom? Are you a friend, a sister? Like, what do you do for a living? What kind of car do you drive? What kind of house do you live in? I know it sounds really shallow, right? Whenever you're listening to it, like as I'm saying it, it may come across like really shallow. But the reality is, a lot of people are identified with that. A lot of people think that because they like work a really nice job or a really good job, that that is how they identify. A lot of people think that because they got money in their account, that that is how they identify. They think that they're better, or they think that this makes them who they are. But it doesn't. Listen, it does not. Okay? It doesn't make you who you are. You're not identified by the things that you possess, the tangible or intangible things. You're not identified the clothes, the cars, the jewelry, the money, whatever it is that you have. I don't know. I'm just calling out some things. But whatever it is, that is not how you identify, okay? That's not what we're doing. So I want to really get deep into the nitty gritty with you. I know you're probably like, listen, how do you know? I want to walk you through my journey, like literally, right? I want to talk about my journey. I want to tell my story. I want you guys to know that I'm not here just because my life is so perfect and my life is so grand. Listen, I am the one who knows who she is. And it's not because I've always known. It's because I literally had to walk this journey out. So I want to walk this journey with you guys. I want to tell you guys about some things that I've encountered in my life, how I came to the place of knowing who I was according to the Father, like how I really got into relationship with him, and how he really started to steward me in exactly who it was that he was calling me to be. Have I arrived? Absolutely not. There is no such thing. Don't let nobody lie to you now. There is no such thing, literally. But am I on a journey every single day of my life? Absolutely. Every single day of my life, I am on a journey to walking boldly, resiliently, like unapologetically in exactly who it is that the Father has called me to be. So again, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me because I'm super transparent. I always say, like, the Lord knew exactly what he was doing, right? I am the one, okay? So I'm super transparent. Anything that the Lord heals me from, I believe that he gives me permission to share. Not because he wants me to put all my business out in the streets, okay? It's not about that. It's literally about me being the mouthpiece for him. He wants to know that out of all of the things that I've encountered, out of all of the things that you've encountered, that you're willing to go back and help somebody else, that you're willing to share your journey with them, to share what you've been through, how you overcame all of the things that you've encountered and you've endured. The Lord wants to know that you're going to be the mouthpiece for him. Second Peter, right? Do we love Peter? I love Second Peter. But he wants to know that we're going to be the mouthpiece for him, and that we are literally going to go and we're going to tell men and women about who it is that saved us, who it is that helped us get from a place that we were, and who it is that's stewarding our life every single day. So again, I am Sharon Tillman. That got a ring to it, right? I know, right? Okay, so I'm Sharon Tillman. I am A mom of three. I have three amazing kids. My son is 18. He's almost 19, y'all. My son is getting ready to go to he's getting ready to go to college. He is graduating from high school this year. And if you knew me, then you would know that like I am crying literally on the inside, even as I say this. Like he's not only like my firstborn kid, right? So it's like my first two children are at almost 5 years apart. So you can imagine like the connection that I have with my son because he was here. I had like time with him prior to the other kids getting here. But not just that, I want to talk about a little bit of my journey even before he was here and how I felt like this kid like literally saved my life, right? And so my connection to him and his connection to me, like, and you know what? A lot of people talk about mama boys, and I don't want no mama's boy, right? So I be trying to make sure I keep that fine line between like, son, you're not gonna be no mama's boy, but you better love your mama, right? Right. Do I have any moms out there that can relate? Moms with sons, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But my baby is my baby, right? And so he's like such a great kid. And I know all moms say this about their kids, right? So don't get it twisted. He is such a great kid. He's always been like super respectful, just always been like just really down to earth. Is he perfect? Absolutely not, right? Not perfect by far. But he's been such a great help to me. I am divorced. So coming out of a divorce right in the middle of him being a teenager and him just stepping and like, Mom, I want to help you in any way that I can. He loves his sisters like no other. And they absolutely adore him. They look up to him in so many ways. And I'm going to have to like just let you guys know that my kids they're my babies, okay? They belong to the Father, but I am so grateful that he chose me to be their mother and he chose me to steward them here on this earth. But he's like just loves his sisters, like super dependable in so many different ways. And so I'm going to miss him when he goes off to college. I just want you to know. Totally gonna miss my baby so much. But I have a son who, like I said, is 18. My oldest daughter is 14. So, well, she'll be 14 in a few weeks. And so that is my ride or die, like, ain't nobody gonna mess with her mama because she coming for you, kid, okay? Like, it's so funny how, and I want the moms to relate. Like, I want you guys to really get into the nitty gritty of this. And I'm going to go on. I just want to kind of like give you a feel for my world. I want you to know enough about me to know that we're on this journey together. Like, it ain't nobody better than nobody. We are on this journey together. We're doing this thing together. We're going to do life together on this podcast. Okay. I want you guys to know that who are you with I Am Sharon Tillman? We doing life together, okay? That is what we're doing. Okay, so my oldest daughter, she is, like I said, she is my ride or die, okay? This one goes hard for her mama. She don't play no games. Don't come for her. Don't come for her mama. Don't come for her sister. And don't come for her brother, right? And if you don't do that, you ain't gonna have no problems with her, right? And then, of course, I have a baby, which sounds crazy, right? But my baby girl is turning 7 this year, and she is the epitome of her mother. Like, she is the sweetest kid. And I know y'all probably like, girl, no, seriously, this kid talks like me. Like, she be in class, like, not judging people, but she be in class like, I'm going to meet you where you are. Like, she's 6, right? But she'd be like, I'm going to meet you where you are. Or like, you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. Repeat that after me. She's like the mama, right? And I hear people say all the time that your last kid, they like the babies, right? So your last kid, the babies of the family, they come in like, I'm the oldest. I'm in charge. I'm in control. I got this. Like, don't you worry. That's totally the energy that my baby girl gives off. But she is the sweetest, like the sweetest, almost most innocent child that you ever want to encounter. So that is my babies, right? I am a divorced mom of three. I was married to my high school sweetheart, my then husband, for almost 15 years. So, I mean, if you do the math, like y'all probably figuring out my age somewhere up in there. But for almost 15 years, I was married to one man, and on that journey came so many different things. So I mean, I can remember going into my marriage, I was definitely in my 20s. I was so young, and not really understanding, not really knowing, just didn't really know a lot about marriage, right? So I like to say my marriage failed, but not in the way that people think, right? Because when you hear like my marriage failed, is catchy, but let me tell you why it failed, right? I say my marriage failed because we were two individuals that went into a marriage and neither one of us knew who we were. So it's like I'm coming into this situation and I'm gravitating to something that I don't even know anything about because I don't know what I'm bringing, and vice versa. We got married when we were young, and we already had my son. So my son was a toddler at the time, of course. And we got married and we did life together for almost 15 years. We rode a roller coaster up and down and up and down and up and down and around until we got off, or until I got off, right? I got off the roller coaster, and I'm not here to talk about him per se. I want you guys to know all about the things that had led me to the place where I am today. So we got off that roller coaster, or I got off that roller coaster, and I had to learn how to do life without having the same person since I was a child, right? I got out here in these dating streets as an adult, and I was like, wait a minute, like, well, I don't remember dating being like this. Like, anybody know about them? Listen, if y'all got luck out there in them dating streets, hit a girl up and let a girl know like what y'all doing, because them dating streets have not been my friend. Like, I'm just like, no, this is not how I remember dating. But of course, my dating looked different. I was a teenager when I was dating. Fell so hard for my ex, and it's like you fall so hard and it's all that you see, it's all that you know, and you don't know anything else, you don't want to do anything else. And it's like, it might be other things out there, you might be seeing red flags that you're like making look like yellow, or you're making those flags look green because you want to keep moving, even though you know that you shouldn't. Like, I want you guys to be totally honest with me, because listen, your girl is going to be real on this podcast. That's one thing you don't have to worry about me. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm definitely not going to make it look like something that it's not. I am going to be totally authentic with you guys, okay? I want you to know I'm going to be totally authentic with you. The basis of where I want to get to tonight is really knowing who you are, though. So I want to start my journey with, my childhood. I grew up with my parents. My mom was young. My dad was young. They had me when they were very, very young. So let me take that back. Not necessarily growing up with them, but kind of growing up with them in the sense of my parents are young. So it's like they're young and they're not in a place to really know how to be parents, right? So it's almost impossible for them to parent me when they don't know how. But it's even harder for me to try to understand that at my young age, right? So I had like a lot of childhood hurt, a lot of childhood trauma from my parents, and that I didn't understand or I didn't realize, and I wasn't really able to foster until I got older, until I really got old enough to understand, and I got healed enough to understand. Can your girl just be real with you? Because even when we get older, it doesn't necessarily mean that we still understand. We're just older. Older don't always mean wiser, okay? Anybody can be wise when they're healed and they got the right knowledge, right? When they're looking at something from the right perspective, doing it from the right way, right? So I can think of like all the times. And so I wrote a book. The name of the book that I wrote is called Pain for Purpose, which was like a memoir of my life. And so in this book, I talked about my foundational love, which were my parents, and how they just weren't there for me. Like I said, they were young. My dad was 14. My mom was 15. Like, these are kids. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to be no parents at 14 and 15. Like, at this point, do we really even know how to do the do? Or are we just doing the do and things happen while we doing the do, and boom, here comes a baby? Okay? But let me tell you about my good old father, who had a plan and a purpose for me even before putting me in my mother's womb. He knew that he was going to take me through all of the things I didn't know. They probably didn't know. But the Lord knew. So the plan and the purpose that he had for me was for me to come. And if that is the way that he had to get me here, if that was the way that he had to get my entrance into the earth, then he just took the opportunity and did what he had to do, because he is the Lord, okay? And he does all things well. Even when it don't feel well, he does all things well, right? So getting back to my story, my parents were young. I had a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of hurt. My dad's family at the time, because my dad was so young, they just did not believe, like, there is no way this is his kid. Like, this is not possible, right? And so they were like, nope, we ain't believing it, and we not claiming it, right? So, and I know y'all know stories of like when the dads and the dad's family and everybody just turned their backs on the kids or whatever, but it wasn't really like that. My dad always felt like, my dad always knew, he said, that I was his daughter. And even though and even in my age right now, my dad and I are so close and we can talk about anything. Like, I love that dude, right? And so even in our conversation about it, because of course we've talked about it like a lot of times, and he said to me, like, Sharon, I wish I would have stood up for what I knew, what I felt more. But that goes back to him and his identity and knowing exactly who he is. So do you see how this thing is a trickle effect? Like, when we don't know who we are and when we really don't know, we just really don't know. And so he talked about that. But my dad's family did not believe. So for most of my life, I grew up without family, right? I found out when I was like 16 years old that my dad's family did not believe that I was his kid. And my dad went to prison. So my dad went to prison when I was 7. So he was gone. Like, I think I saw my dad like 3 times, 1, 2, 3, prior to him going to prison. And I didn't see him again until he got out. My dad lived in a whole nother state. So the way that it worked out was like, literally, my dad's family was married into my mom's family, which is how they even got to know each other within like different states or whatever, because they're kids, right? So things happen, and all in a nutshell, I'm kin to the peoples on both sides, on the mom's side and the daddy's side. How about that, right? But like, literally, so that's what happened. And so for all of this time, they just did not believe. And I did not know. So at this point in my life, I felt like, I felt a lot of things, right? I felt like I was chasing love. I didn't know what love felt like. And so I'm going to talk about this later, and I want to kind of really go into the depths of this, because I know that there are so many of us out there who are like literally longing for something. And we're longing for something, and sometimes we're willing to do whatever we got to do to get it, because that longing is there. We need that. We want that. We desire that. And sometimes we feel like compromising ourselves is the only way to get it, right? I know that I'm not by myself on this. So I literally remember feeling like I need, like, I don't know what love feels like. I don't feel like anybody really loves me. I don't feel like I have a place of belonging. There was so much pain attached to me when it came to my mom, and she just couldn't get close to me. I understand it today. I couldn't understand it then. So just imagine growing up and you feel like you don't have a mom, you don't have a dad, your dad's family lived far away. And at this time, I didn't know that they didn't believe that I was his kid. So like, I am literally like running after them. Every time they're in town, I'm running down there like, my grandma's in town. Let me go see my grandma, who never ever says anything to me, never calls. And I mean, they never made me feel like, when I was in their presence, I want to make it clear, they weren't mean to me. They just weren't in my life. Like, when I was in their presence, when they were in town, they weren't mean. They didn't say like, oh no, you're not his kid. Why are you here? Don't call me auntie. Don't call me grandma. They never said those things to me. But they never called. They never made an effort to see me. Nobody never bought me a gift, a birthday card, a Christmas gift, a pair of socks, a pair of underwear. You know how what grandmas buy, t-shirts, socks, underwear. I ain't get none of the things. Okay, let's be very clear. I got none of the things. So for me, I didn't understand. I was like, I don't really understand. But maybe this is just what happens, right? Whenever your parents have you young, right? That's what I thought. And then I used to, and let me just be really honest with you, because there was even a point in time where I thought that God was angry with me, right? I thought that he didn't like me. So I'm like, okay, God, I feel like you're blaming me for my parents having me out of wedlock. My parents, I'm like, I feel like I am the one that is literally like feeling the pain and the pressure, and I'm getting the grunt of what the mistake that they made. And I'm like, God, that's not fair. Like, that's so unfair to me. I didn't ask to be here. Like, I didn't ask to be here. This was something that they did. Why am I paying for it in so many different ways? Even when it came to my friends, and my friends had either a mom or a dad or both. And I used to just sit there and I used to be like, I don't understand my life. And like, even when it came to my family, like, my dad was away in prison. My dad's family lived in another state. So I only saw them like maybe once or twice a year, maybe once or twice a year, because their family is here, and they would come to this state to see their family. When they came to the state to see their family, I would go where they were so that I can see them, right? If they didn't come to the state, I didn't see them. Never went away to their house, never went out of state to see them prior to the paternity test, of course. After the paternity test was different. Prior to the paternity test, never went out to see them, never done any of the things, right? So I remember always feeling like, okay, like, what is wrong with me? Like, and then my family with my mom, we're also different, right? So the way that I talk today is the way that I have talked my whole life, right? Came from the same little town, from the same little country town that everybody else came from. But this is how I've always been a different girl. I've always stood out. I've always carried myself differently, presented myself. Like, I've always been different. That different to me at that age was a bad thing, because it's like, I am not even fitting in with the people that I am around. Like, okay, God, what I'll never forget. I used to sit around and like watch Maury. Anybody else watch Maury? Like, You Are Not the Father. I used to sit around and watch Maury, and I used to be like, I'm going to call. And I know I called at least twice. It must have been the Lord. I know I called at least twice, but I was like, I need to go on his show, because I don't think that I think I was like literally traded at the hospital. Somebody done got the wrong baby. You know, the security that they got for the babies now, honey, they didn't have that security back in the day. the ankles and all the things, when you be looking at Lifetime and you see how all the people be walking out taking the people babies, that's because they didn't have that security back in the day. So I'm like, maybe somebody done picked up the wrong kid. They done took the wrong, because I'm not fitting in here. I don't do what these people do. And not in the sense of like a bad thing. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It wasn't like they were doing anything that was wrong. It was just like, it was like we were coming from two different worlds, right? It was literally like, it was like you're putting me in a place and I don't look or act anything like the people that are around me. And it's like, because I'm insecure, okay? Let's be very clear. I got abandonment issues at this point. I got rejection issues at this point. I don't know who I am. I feel unloved. I feel unwanted. I don't feel like I have a place of belonging. Like I felt like I was just here. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm just here. I don't even know what else to do, what else to say. I'm literally just here. And I was hurting, right? But what do we do when we're hurting? Like the therapy in Jesus that we talk about today, that wasn't prevalent in our days back then. And I say back then, y'all, I'm really not that old. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to say back then. How about that, right? But like it wasn't prevalent as it is today. So it's like the Jesus in therapy or somebody putting you in therapy so you could work out your issues. Like we didn't know anything about that. Like back in the day, people used to be like, baby, you take your problems to Jesus. And if you need anybody outside of Jesus, then you ain't doing something right, because Jesus is all you need. Okay. Anybody else ever heard that? If you trying to go to therapy, baby, something that is devil's work and something is wrong with you. Right. So that's the way that it was viewed. Nobody talked about therapy. I don't even know. And I'm sure therapists exist back in the day, but definitely not like they exist today. Excuse me, because I know for a fact that I never even heard therapy when I was growing up, right? So I got all of these issues going on. I find myself trying to like fit in all of the places, right? I'm trying to fit in all of the places. I'm like, okay, there's got to be a place for me somewhere. What do you do whenever you want to just fit in? You become a product of your environment, right? So whoever you hanging out with at the time, whatever they're doing at the time, whatever's happening at the time, you're trying to do it. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to find a way where you can be like what you see, because you're like, okay, if they're doing this, if I do it, they're going to like me. I always like to resort to my like middle school journey. And so I remember when my children were coming up, and as they were approaching middle school, my son and my daughter, I remember having this conversation with them. I needed to tell them where I was in middle school because I wanted them to know. I feel like middle school is one of the hardest, like elementary school is whatever. High school, you kind of done figured out your friend group, what you like, what you don't like, things like that. That middle school is that hard place in the middle where you're like literally trying to figure out where you belong, who you gonna hang out with, what you like, what you don't like, who's cool, who's not. Am I gonna be in the cool group? Am I not gonna be in the cool group? Like all of the things. And the girls that I used to hang out with in middle school, I'll never forget it. Like these girls was wilding, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't know anything about that life. Let your girl be clear, okay? I ain't know nothing about that. But let me tell you what I did do. I used to make stuff up because I'm like, I need to fit in somewhere. Like somebody's finna let me in. It's almost like you're a puzzle piece, right? And you're trying to bend every corner so you can insert yourself in a place that you don't necessarily need to be in. So it's like that was me a lot of my life, especially in my younger days. I was trying to insert myself in because I had no idea who I was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know. I'm like, who are you? If somebody would have asked me who I was back then, Baby, I don't even know if I would have been bold enough to say I am Sharon Tillman. Well, I wasn't a Tillman then, of course, but I don't even know if I would have been bold enough to just tell them what my name was, because I literally lived in a place of fear within my head. Like, if my parents don't want me, if my dad's family don't want me, who's really going to want me? And if they're going to want me, why? It's not going to be genuine. It's not going to be authentic. So literally in my head, in my mind, I've already created this box of fear of like, I'm not going to be, if I be her, nobody's going to, oh, thank you, Holy Ghost. If I be her, who I'm designed to be, nobody wants her. So I've got to figure out how to be anything and anybody else, because I need to feel wanted. I need to feel desired. I need to feel loved. I need to feel all of the things, right? And so that was the space that I lived in. I needed to feel those things. I needed to feel loved. I needed to know that somebody loved me. I needed to know that. I needed to feel that. And I wasn't feeling it. So I'm like, I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to get to the place where I need to be, because I need people to know that I am here. Listen, I'm here, okay? I need you to know I'm trying to be where y'all at. Where y'all going? Because I'm trying to go where y'all going. But literally, and it doesn't matter how much you try to fit into a space. You can try your best to fit into a space for as long as you can steward it, right? You're never going to completely fit into a space that you're not supposed to be in. I mean, like, ever. I don't care how long you stay there. It doesn't mean that that's where you're supposed to be. You can stay there for however long you desire. But the reality is, if that's not the space that you're supposed to be in, then you're going to find yourself uncomfortable. You're going to find yourself needing to pivot. You can fight it, right? Because we've all done that. We all know whenever we need to move. We all know when the time is up, when the season is up. But the reality is, sometimes we just press past it, right? Press past it. We fight past that feeling. We fight past that emotion. Like, yeah, nah. Yeah, nah. I know I deserve better, but you know what? I'm going to take what I got. I know that I can do better, but having someone here is better than having no one here. I mean, I know that he doesn't deserve me, but you know what? I'm just going to put up with it because he loves me. How many times have we been there? We've all been there before, right? So we're trying to insert ourselves in places. We're trying to do things that we know we shouldn't be doing. We're trying to fit into places that we know that we don't need to fit into, but we're doing whatever we feel like we've got to do, whatever we feel like we can do in order to just insert ourselves in a place, because we're not comfortable being by ourselves. We're not comfortable being who we are because we don't know exactly who we are. We don't know. And it's okay, right? Because we've all been there. Listen, I want you to sit in this, and I want you to really evaluate yourself and evaluate that place. And if you can relate, I want you to be like, sis, I can relate to you. I know what you're saying because I've been there, or I am there. And it doesn't matter if you are there, if you've been there, or you ain't been there, but you going there. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're going to know who you are. And when you know who you are, your whole life is going to change. I promise you. The girl is a witness. I promise you. Your life changes when you know who you are. So it's important for us to make sure that we know that. How do we get to the place of knowing who we are? We can only get to the place of knowing who we are because of the Father. It is the Father who puts it within us. Let me tell you something about God, and then I'm going to jump back into my story. I was telling you guys earlier about James, in the book of James, where it talks about God literally having a plan and a purpose for us before putting us in our mother's womb, knowing us before we knew us, before our parents knew us. So I look at my life and I say, okay, God, you had a plan and a purpose for me even before you allowed me to come into the womb of my mother. at the age of 14. So I understand, God, that there was a plan there. You had a plan. You had a plan and you had a purpose for me at that time. Whether they knew it and they didn't know it, and whether I knew it and I didn't know it, but there was something that you wanted to do. Fast forward to Peter, right? Second Peter says, and I want to say 3 and 4. I could be wrong. Don't quote me, but I promise you I'm a post it, right? But it could be 2 Peter 3 and 4. Read that, look that up, and if that ain't right, read Peter, because it's in there. But it's 2 Peter, and I think it's 3, right? But the Lord allows us to know in the book of Peter that everything that we need in order to fulfill the purpose that God had created for us when putting us in our mother's womb we're born with it. So everything that we literally need to fulfill the purpose of God here on this earth, we already got it. It's inside of you. And I know you're probably sitting there and you're like, it ain't inside of me. Ain't no purpose inside of me. Yeah, sis. Yeah, bro. You got purpose. I promise you. Excuse me. I promise you, you've got purpose. There is purpose inside of you. And everything that you need to steward that purpose, everything that you need to bring that purpose into fruition, everything that you need to live that purpose here, live it out here on this earth, it's in you. You got it. I'm so sorry. Whether it needs to be cultivated, whether it needs to be matured, but you've got that purpose on the inside of you. Everything that you need. The Bible tells us so. So I want you to know that you've got purpose. You've got your creator. He knew why he created you. You're not a mistake. Your creation was not a mistake. I don't care how you got here. Listen, I had somebody tell me one time they got here on the pre-com. They was like, Sharon, you ain't even supposed to be able to have a kid off of that. I said, well, let me tell you about my father. Because whatever my father wants to do, he has the ability to do. So if there was something inside of you that he knew that he needed, and that was the only way that he was going to get it here, let me tell you what he was going to do. He was going to do it just like he did it for Sarah at 90. I'm just saying, because the Father has all power to do all things. Like literally, there's nothing too hard for him. He can do all things, right? Okay, I'm gonna get back to my story and then I'm gonna wrap this up because we got a podcast going on. So we got episode after episode. I can't give it all to you on the first episode. Then you ain't gonna come back, right? I need you to come back. But getting back to my story. So I remember just being in that place and I had all of these feelings, all of these emotions, just all of this stuff going on. And I had no idea who I was. I leave middle school, super smart kid. And that was one thing about me. I was super smart. I get to middle school trying to be all the things that I'm not. My grades are slipping. I'm not performing at the capacity that I've always performed. So I go into high school and I'm not at the place where I need to be for high school, right? I'm taking an extra class or something. I can't even really remember. But I'm like not at the place, not because I didn't have what it took, but because I literally was trying to do some things that I know weren't for me. So I get to high school and I'm tired of just like being at this place. And I'm like, okay, listen, I need me some new friends. I need some new friends. Like I gotta change up my group a little bit because like this right here is not it, sis. Like, come on, right? So I remember doing just that. I remember like going through 9th grade, and by the time the end of 9th grade came, I was ready to switch up my friend group, and I switched up my friend group and I got with some people who was about their business, right? So when you got your friends who got their business, they standing on business, what they do, they make you stand on business. This is why you got to have good friends. Let me just insert. This is why you got to have good people in your life, because when you have the right people in your life, people who are about their business, literally, not just like in all of the ways, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, like financially, career wise, like all of the things. When you got people who are about your business, that's not a place for you to be envious or to be intimidated or to be a hater or to be mad. That's a place for you to boss up, because real people who bossing up, they not bossing up over you to make you look up to them for some like inferior kind of situation. Like real friends bossing up because they want you to see, like, listen, since I boss up, you can boss up too. Let's boss up together. It's enough boss up at the top of the ladder for all of us to be bosses, right? That was an insert, right? Check your circle, sis. Check your circle. Um, but I got with the people who was bossing up. They was doing their stuff. So it made me do my stuff. I got back in my books, pulling up my grades, doing all of the things. I'm like, no, I'm changing my life. I got to get out of high school. I got to go to college. I am going to give myself a better life. I'm going to do this for myself at this point. Still not in that place where, like, I love God. I go to church, but I don't really know him, right? Anybody ever been there? Like, my grandma loves God. I see my grandma love God. I know my grandma has a relationship with God because at this point she's a pastor. But I don't really know her God. Like, I don't really know him. I don't really get to see her like live it out to the capacity where it makes me want to know him, or to the capacity where I feel like I can know him and understand him. It's like God is like this great big God far, far away, and he don't care nothing about these little people down here on this earth if you ain't about your business when it comes to him. That's the way that I felt, right? I see my grandmother praying, but to like have conversations and things, I think a lot of things from back in the day, like people just didn't talk about, especially when it came to Christianity. I remember my grandma used to tell me, don't you dare question God. And I used to be like, what? Don't you dare. You're not allowed to ask God questions. So for the longest, we are fearful of a father that we're supposed to have relationship with, right? How do we have relationship with the father that we're supposed to be fearful of? Yes, I want to like not be fearful of him to where I can't have a relationship, but I do want to fear him. Yes, you should fear God like you fear your father. You fear your natural father. You fear your natural mother, but not fearful in a sense of where you can't even ask a question. Like you can't, like, how do you steward a relationship? So I didn't understand the basis of relationship with the father when I was growing up. I didn't understand it as relationship. I understood it as God is God. He gonna do whatever he want to do. You better not ask him no questions. You accept whatever he gives. That is the way that I came to the understanding of God in my youth. So for me, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get myself together and I'm going to college because I'm going to give myself a better life, right? That is what I kept saying. That's what I kept telling myself. Sharon, you going to college, you gonna give yourself a better life. You gonna figure this thing out, girl. You gonna be better than you are not going to be a product of your environment. You are going to be better than the way you came up. You gonna be better. This is what we're gonna do, right? So then how I go and I meet somebody. Ain't that what happened? Just be so focused, right? I'll never forget how I even came into the meeting of my ex. Was he came to play, the musician came to play at my grandma's church. It's like choir anniversary or something, I don't know. And I knew that we went to school together, but I didn't really know him like that. You know what I'm saying? At one point, I thought he was my cousin. Let me just be clear. Let me throw this disclaimer out there, because my cousin, you know, I'm kin on my mama and my daddy side, right? So my cousin is cousins with his cousin. So my cousin would be around his family all the time and like call them all aunties and uncles and cousins and things like that, even though she was only kin to a certain set of them. So for the longest, my knowing of him was only like, oh, I think he's my cousin. Not like, this my man, my man, my man. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we get to the point where we're in, I'm not even going to say in like relationship, like we're dating, right? So we're dating throughout high school. He's 2 years older than me. So of course he graduates and I'm still in school and we're dating on and off or whatever. We didn't go to the prom together. We didn't go to his senior prom together. We didn't go to my senior prom together. That's how we was, okay? We was dating, but we won't, right? It wasn't until it was time for me to go to college. It wasn't until it was time for me to graduate, right? And I'm gonna tell this and I'm gonna put a pin in it. I'm gonna give you a plug and then I'm gonna see you at the next episode, right? But it wasn't until it came to the point where it was time for me to graduate. And I'm thinking about all of the things that I'm gonna do. I've applied for a few schools. I've gotten accepted into like two of them that I wanted to go to. And I'm like, I'm wanting to go. I had a job at this point. I was working at Food Lion. Okay. So I'm like, the girl is trying to get her coins up so she can go to school. So I'm like, okay, I am going to work an extra semester and save up a little money and I'm going to leave in January, right? That was my plan. And so I remember just being like, okay, that is my plan. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm sharing that with, my boyfriend at the time. And he's dropping these, I didn't think you were going to go to school. I don't know how we're going to do this. I love you. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm feeling all of these things on the inside because now I'm coming to that place of, girl, what you gonna do? You gonna choose you and go to school because you know you've always talked about this better life. Or you gonna choose your man because he just said he love you and you don't hear that. Like you don't feel like other people love you. Like for me, love was always transactional. I felt like love was always transactional in my life. I didn't get love unless I was giving love or not even love. I felt like I was giving things sometimes. So if I can't do anything for you, I didn't feel like I would get love from you. And this is how people and relationships in my life were. It was always like, if I'm not coming with some type of benefit, people don't want me. And so to hear somebody say, I love you, and there is not of course, there's always benefits, right? There's always benefits, but it's like it's not a one-sided this time, right? It's not one-sided. Like we benefit each other, right? But just to be in that place and then come to that place and it's like, what are you going to do? And I remember, like literally, guys, I remember just being in that place and I didn't have a relationship with God. So I'm not praying about it. I'm going through the things in my little head at such a young age when the front part of my brain not even developed. And I'm trying to figure this thing out for myself. Because I'm trying to figure out life. And I'm like, Sharon, you want to get married and you do want to have children. Like you want to do it the right way. I didn't want to have kids out of wedlock. I didn't want to have multiple baby fathers. Like I just didn't. Like I grew up like seeing these things. It was so around me. It was the environment. Like, and I used to always tell people and I literally talk about it all the time because it literally changed my life. But I used to hear people tell me all the time, Sharon gonna be just like her mama when she grow up. That girl ain't going nowhere. That girl ain't doing nothing. She gonna be just like her mama. She ain't, trust me, she ain't doing. And I think that was the fuel to me like, nah, sis, you gonna change your life because you gonna prove them wrong if you don't do nothing else. Even if you're doing it with the wrong motive, I'm going to change my life because I'm about to prove them wrong. You said this is what I'm gonna be and I'm proving to you that I'm not. That don't mean that it's the right motive, but that was the insert in my head. So I remember just trying to decide, and I'm like, I'm going to school. Like, I'm just going to have to go to college, and we're going to have to, like, just try to, like, date and figure this thing out, right? We're just going to have to date, and we're going to have to figure it out. I mean, long distantly, like I ain't got no car. Come up there and see me. Come pick me up sometimes because I'm on my way to Winston-Salem State. That was the school that I wanted to go to for nursing. Nursing was what I wanted to do. So I'm like, nah, just come pick me up. And, like, this is what we're going to have to do. And maybe 3 weeks before it was time for me to go, I found out I was pregnant. And I'm going to put a pause in it right there. I'm going to pick this story up whenever we come back to the next episode. But I'm walking you through my journey because I want you to know that it's not about me judging at all. I want you to know that this girl was broken, okay? I was broken. I had trauma. I had damage. I had hurt. I told you in the beginning of this story, I suffered from rejection. I suffered from abandonment issues, just not knowing who I was, not feeling like I had a place of belonging. Like for a lot of my life, I felt like I don't even know where I belong. Who am I? Where do I belong? Where did I come from? Where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? These were the questions that I was constantly asking myself because I didn't have anybody in my life that I felt like I could go to and ask. I didn't have that. So I'm walking you through this journey because I want you to know that it's not about where you've been. It's not about what your past looks like. It's not about the trauma and the damage that you experienced even in your childhood, because I understand. So I'm a counselor. I'm a life coach. These are the things that I do. So if you need services, I'm going to direct you to my website. I'm going to put all my information, right? But I remember, like, literally, I didn't know who I was, right? I didn't know. I had no idea. So as I'm going through, I want you to know that it doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter the way you grew up. A lot of our damage, a lot of our trauma comes from childhood. A lot of things that happen to us in our childhood, it affects where we become, who we become, and how we do life, how we steward life. It literally affects that. So I want you to know your past does not matter. Even where you are right now, sis, hear me. I don't even care. No matter where you are right now, even if you're sitting here and you're listening to this pod and you're like, I'm in a predicament right now and I feel her. Like, I feel like this was my life and this is why I am where I am. Let me encourage you, sis, that it's never too late. It's never too late to change your tomorrow. You can change your tomorrow today. It's never too late, okay? It's never too late for you to choose you. It's never too late for you to allow the Father to heal you from the inside out. Literally, He wants to heal you from the inside out. Allow Him to heal you from the inside out. Allow Him to be that in your life. He wants to. He is your Father. And He loves you. And when I say that the Father loves you, the Father loves you. I am going to get into the logistics of the love that the Father showed me that I have never felt earthly, right? I had never, ever felt this love earthly. And if it wasn't for the Father introducing me to a love that I hadn't had, I don't know if I would ever been able to steward love properly, even when it comes to my children, even when it comes to other people that I love in my life. Like, I don't have to overly give away of myself and all of my love, and I never get it reciprocated. There's no reciprocity. I don't feel invalued or invalidated to the point where I feel like I've always got to be the giver and somebody always got to be taken from me, and I got to be okay with that. No, it increases the value. It increases the value that you place on yourself. I put up a post one day literally saying, do you not understand that the value that people hold you to is the value that they see that you hold yourself to? If people are not valuing you, if they're not if they're literally treating you like you are not worthy and you are not worth it, it's because they are thinking that is how you feel about yourself. And they are giving you what they feel like you already think. We're changing the game with this. We're not here to make anybody ever feel like it's okay to treat us beneath our worth, because we know our worth. We know our value. And guess what? We know who we are. That is what this pod is all about. It's all about us coming into the place of knowing exactly who we are, who we've been called to be, and how do we walk boldly? How do we walk effectively? How do we walk confidently and unapologetically in that? It's not about what people think. It's not about what people say. Listen, there is an audience of one. I say this all the time. There is an audience of one. One that you need to please. One that needs to be pleased with you. One that you need to consult. Your audience of one is all that matters. When your father is pleased with you, when your father is literally pleased with the life that you live, I promise you, it doesn't matter what other people say and think and believe. The ability to be able to be delivered from the opinion of people and for you to walk effectively in who God has called you to be, it starts with you knowing who you are. Knowing who you are in him, who he's called you to be, how he's called you to maneuver, what your purpose and what the purpose and the plan is that he created for you in your mother's womb, even before putting you in your mother's womb. How do we bring that plan into fruition, God? What is it that you want me to do? What is it that you're saying unto me? What is it that you're calling me to do? I feel the unction of something and I don't know what it is. And I'm trying to drink it away. I'm trying to smoke it away. I'm trying to sex it away. I'm trying to party it away. But God, whatever it is that you want to do on the inside, help me to surrender all of those things to you so that you can tell me who I am according to you, and we can walk this thing out. Because I promise you, the Father wants to use you. You are so special. You are so beautifully and wonderfully made. That's what your Bible says. There is something on the inside of you that is needed out here in the earth. There is a we that is assigned to me. Like there is we that is assigned to you. There are people who are literally waiting for you to get it together. They're waiting for you to walk in your place so that they can see what it looks like to walk this thing out. There are people that you are meant to encourage. Sis, you are valuable. You are worthy. You are more than a conqueror through Jesus Christ. You are whole and healed. God has planned for you. There is something that he wants to do on the inside of you. I promise you, sis, he's waiting for you. Who are you? Come on. Listen, I am so excited about this pod. You guys don't even understand. God gave me this. Who are you? He gave me this thing years ago. And I did it for a while. And then I was like, okay, God, I feel like you're calling me more to women. And so I started just really like trying to encourage married women, because I was like, at the time I'm married and I'm like, maybe this ministry is for married women, and I'm a like marriage family counselor, and God was sending me in that direction. And I'm like, okay, God, maybe this is where I'm supposed to be going. And it wasn't until I went through my divorce, which I am going to get all into that. Okay. So you guys got to make sure you come back. You got to make sure you tune in because you don't want to miss it. But it wasn't until I went through my divorce. It literally wasn't until God started to do something on the inside of me from the inside out. It wasn't until I allowed God into those spaces in my life to start really healing me of things that literally had me in bondage for years. I refused to let go. And I thought that getting married hid it. I thought that because I'm married now, those things don't exist. They don't go away. You might suppress them. You might bury them for a little bit. You might put them to the back, brush them up under the rug. But I promise you, if you don't let the Father heal you, you don't ever get rid of them. They're always there. And they are waiting. They are waiting until they can get to the right time to poke their heads. I'm trying to tell you. Listen, I am so excited to do this pod with you. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Who are you? With I am Sharon Tillman. I love you guys for real. Have an amazing night. Later.